Greetings, everybody. Hey, welcome to Module 6. You're getting there. We're really working our way through this entire approach to methodological design, and I am really excited to see the progress that so many of you are making as you are designing your tools and so on and so forth. So I want to just pop in, give you an overview of what we're going to do for this module, give you some insight into what I think you should really be focused on and the ways that I think you can use this module to be successful. But before we get into talking about qualitative work specifically and the especially qualitative analysis and tool design, let's just talk about kind of what's coming up. So you guys have, and I put on the module here, as you guys will see, I'm kind of looking at my screen. If you go below this video, what you will see is that I have actually put in there another copy of the timeline that's in your syllabus. We're a little bit, I mean, I wouldn't say we're off the timeline, but the timeline as you know, is appropriate, kind of is modified to meet your needs. However, you'll see that on March 2nd, which is just this Saturday, it says the qualitative tool is due. Based on what the conversations I've been having with people, I would be surprised if a lot of you are not still working on it on Saturday. That's completely fine. I know that some of you are at different places, as we've talked about. The people I'm most worried about aren't the people who are kind of blowing past some of my sort of deadlines. It's the people who are blowing past them but not reaching out. I have a lot of people who are checking in with me, getting feedback, submitting things, but there is a chunk of the students enrolled in this course who I haven't heard from. And it's kind of a tough situation for me as a faculty member to be in because you're adults. You guys are also doctoral students, right? So I want to honor that you guys are working at maybe a different pace or that you're doing things in a different way. And I completely understand that. However, I also want to just make sure that you understand that you know, whatever you need from me, like I really want you to be engaging with me all along the way. Waiting to the end is not going to work for you. It's not going to work for me, and it's not going to lead to good outcomes for you and your research. So again, my high school teacher instinct is to be like, what's going on over there, Jacob? Or what's going on over there, Mary? Right? Like it's my instinct is to sort of tap you on the shoulder. But as your professor, that's not my work. So I want to let you know I'm here. Please reach out to me if you need anything. Having said that, your timelines here are laid out. You guys know, like this course actually ends in just a few weeks. We don't have much time left together. And you need as much time as you can to write that methods chapter, which is essentially the paper that's due at the end of this semester. So I just want to make sure that you guys are all checking in, making sure that you're not falling too far behind. And if you are, that you're reaching out for a little bit of a lifeline. The other thing you need to be really aware of is this course deadline is like an arbitrary thing in the universe that, you know, we're all adhering to. But and I can be flexible within sort of the boundaries of that. But the thing we can't really be flexible about are those IRB and institutional deadlines. So make sure that you guys know and that you remember that April 1st is that institutional deadline. I know a lot of people, spring break is coming up. GU has their spring break between March 10th and March 16th. And so a lot of you maybe are thinking about using spring break to do a lot of this work. And that is fine. One thing you need to be aware of though is I will not be available for consultation between March 10th and March 17th. So you're going to want to make sure that if you really need support, that you have other people positioned to give you that support, you know, your advisor, people that you know who maybe have some wisdom, your colleagues, your classmates. But again, same for them. Don't wait till the last minute to check in on them and to see if they have time to work with you, because, you know, that is always a disappointment when you think you're going to get support from someone and then it turns out they're on vacation, or it turns out that they have other work that they're working on. But that April 1st IRB submission deadline is something that I got directly from Dr. Z. And so I think, keeping that boundary in line for yourself will be really, really important. Okay, so that's kind of the big news in terms of deadline and overview. So let's kind of come from this big sort of 10,000 foot view of your entire big project, and let's hone in on this module, which is really about qualitative tool design, qualitative methodological approaches that you guys are going to use. The work for this is primarily, for this mod, is really just reading, right? Reading and creating a tool. And a tool, we'll talk about what I mean by a tool for qualitative work in just a second. But the readings are substantial for this module. And there's a couple of reasons for it. First of all, there isn't other work for you to do. And second of all, there's a lot for you to process and to consider. And we're going to talk about sort of the basics of qualitative work, as well as in this reading, you're going to be reading about criticality or critical qualitative methods or approaches. And those two things are really important concepts that you guys need, not just for qualitative researchers in this group, but for all of us. We're looking at critical qualitative work or criticality in sort of a qualitative context, largely because critical qualitative analysis and critical qualitative approaches are the oldest kind of approaches in this field of critical studies. But the use of sort of critical methods is something that can be applied to quantitative work as well. And in fact, some of the most cutting edge work that's being done right now is in what my friends who do this work call crit qual, right? Critical quantitative studies and research. So again, I'm gonna post another video that goes a little bit more into what we mean when we say critical, because sometimes it gets confused. And in the last few years, it's gotten really political. So I want to break it down for you a little bit, give you a little bit of intro as you move into some of this reading. There are two readings in your list that are explicitly about critical qualitative work or criticality. The rest of the readings that I am assigning, especially the Burkholder and the Cresswell, you're really just looking at two different sources. Cresswell is a baseline. Cresswell is sort of like what most people go to. And in fact, if you're looking closely, you're going to notice that Cresswell is cited throughout Burkholder. So Burkholder is saying, oh, Cresswell, right? So that's why we read Cresswell, because it really is a sort of a foundational text for a lot of researchers. And you've read it in other spaces as well, so that's good. You'll also notice that Denzin is also, which is your first reading, that chapter 1 in What is Critical Qualitative Inquiry, also cited a lot throughout Burkholder. So when you're starting to see people's names come up a lot and they're overlapping, that gives you a sense of some of those really trusted scholars in the field. So we're going to read some of those. And then one of my favorite pieces by Dr. Rachel Winkelwagner, who was one of my professors when I was when I was a doc student. And Dr. Winkelwagner is a really brilliant instructor. I was so lucky that I got to have her as a critical qualitative methods professor. And so I'm passing along to you guys a lot of what I learned from her. But the other thing is, I learned by doing. You really want to go in prepared to do this work. And so reading that Burkholder stuff, I think, is really going to give you an opportunity. Let's show you, the book is sitting right here. I'm actually thinking we're going to make this book more prominent in the program, because I think it really holds a lot of really quality information. And what you'll notice in that list is that they not only do sort of an intro to qualitative analysis, but they also give you a section, a chapter on interviews. Most of you are doing interviews as your approach using qualitative work. even if, just like with the quantitative tool, even if you know you're doing you're not doing qualitative work, you're still going to create a tool. And many of you are going to do interviews. In fact, most of the people that I know that are doing qualitative work are either doing an interview or you doing document analysis. And so really digging into how that is done, understanding how interviews are conducted is important for all of us, and especially for those for whom that is the methodological approach that you want to use. But you're going to notice also considerations in qualitative research is a section I would like for you to read, and then those ethical considerations. Ethical considerations is a broad category. It's not specific to qualitative researchers, but it really brings into our work a lot of conversation about ethics. And I want you to be very thoughtful when you are designing these qualitative approaches, that you are asking yourself, what is the ethical situation that I need to consider for myself as a researcher? If you work in the building that you are doing this kind of research in, which some of you who are doing interviews, that is your very situation, you're going to need to do a really rigorous job of describing all of the ways that you are addressing the ethical concerns that come into play when you are interviewing and gathering data from colleagues, from people that you know, and you also need to investigate how that approach leads to issues of reliability and also limitations in your study that you have to acknowledge and address. And so it doesn't mean you can't do it, but it will not be reliable, nor will it be valid research if you do not attack those ethical concerns head on. The other thing too is those of you who are doing document analysis, that is also qualitative in nature, especially if you are describing what you are seeing or you are describing sort of the sort of conditions within sort of a website. Maybe curriculum, maybe a speech that someone gave, maybe like you're going to look at blog posts that maybe your superintendent writes a blog and you want to actually do a qualitative analysis. You want to code that. Then you're going to need to really understand qualitative approaches for that work as well. Speaking of coding, in our next module, we're going to look at analysis of qualitative work. So look for this to be posted. I'm hoping by the end of this week, I'm going to get that analysis module up for you guys. And we're going to be looking at a tool called MaxQDA, which is a coding tool that you can use to actually upload content like said blogs that I was talking about or interview transcripts, and you are going to learn how to look critically at text that has been delivered to you either verbally or maybe you're going to look at open-ended responses on a survey, and that's qualitative and needs to be addressed as qualitative data. And so we'll talk about that in our next module. So this week is really about like really enriching yourself, coming to a point where you have some established credential in terms of understanding what it means to be a qualitative researcher and design qualitative methods. Okay, let me see. I'm looking at my notes down here to make sure that I covered all the things that I want to cover. I'm going to come back and talk about criticality, so you'll see that in a different spot. I'm also going to talk to you guys about positionality. You'll notice that there is a tab for positionality. All of you are going to need to create a positionality statement, which will be part of your methods chapter or your submission. So definitely take a look at what positionality is, how positionality is sort of described and done, how you create a positionality statement. So make sure you take a look at that. Okay. Make sure you reach out to me if you need me. If you don't need me and I haven't heard from you in 2 weeks, why don't you reach out to me anyway? and give me an update. It would be helpful to me to kind of get some reassurance about where people are, make sure you guys are kind of all kind of moving along at pace. But also, if you're struggling, if you are hiding somewhere in a corner because you have so many IEPs to complete that you cannot get your head straight, or you have so many parent meetings that you have to schedule, or professional developments that you are trying to execute with your staff, and you are buried and you are behind and you didn't want to tell me because you're afraid what I'll say, don't be afraid. I get it. This is really, really hard to do while you are working full time. So reach out to me. Don't let it wait till the end. If you haven't gotten feedback from me yet on your tools for your quantitative work, I'm still working my way through a few people left to go, but I will get those done soon. All right. Be well. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.